Sorry, JP here says Foden changes the whole dynamic of the England team. They just play a lot more savvy and smoother. No disrespect, but never start Mount again. Bellingham stock has just gone up. And
It's just...
I wanted to ask about Bellingham. It's a great segue into Jude Bellingham because brilliant against Iran. Didn't have the best day out against the USA, but then against Wales, and then today was by far his best performance. Just scintillating midfield performance from, is he still 19?
He's 19.
A teenager. Yep. For me, Jude Bellingham has by far been the best young player at this tournament. And there's been a few good ones, but Bellingham is having the tournament of his life. Talk to me, Dizzy.
Man,
talk to me about Bellingham.
On my way down here, I was wondering whose coming out party is this World Cup? And I was struggling to think of anyone past Bellingham, man. I think other than Mbappe, and Ziyech, he's had a good run as well. But man, Bellingham, he's just so complete. When he holds the ball and how quickly to give the ball away, running into spaces, finding spaces for people to give him the ball so that he can move it quickly, man. That 150 price tag is looking real light today. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know who's getting him, but that 150 price tag is looking light. You might have to add some numbers onto the.
He does look complete, and I know you're a big fan of him, Igal.
I was just going to say player of the tournament. Honestly, for England at this moment in time, the young player of the tournament, he already has his hands on that, and he's the only player in that England midfield that the French team is going to be looking at, and they're going to say, "That's the guy you got to stop. That's the guy we got to beat," because he's the one that's going to be scaring opponents. He's the one that you're going to be looking at and saying, "You know what? We need to get our game plan ready for that guy." And he, at this moment in time, Jude Bellingham, he's that guy. Honestly, I would take him in a heartbeat. Every single person would take him. And I think he's getting to the level where if he keeps this up for one more year, you can actually say this kid's world class.
What do you make of Adam? Do you feel like sorry, Gal, did you say best England player at the World Cup or best player at the World Cup?
I said both. I think you could continuously say, you know what, midfielder wise, who's been a better midfielder than him? You can't name a better midfielder than him. Can you name a better young player than him? You can't name a better young player than him. And at this moment in time, what team in the world does he not get into? That's why I'm saying, is he world class yet, or are we, or what is it?
Bro, like, I can't lie, it's scary because when you look at what you want a midfielder to do as a 6, as an 8, as a 10, the guy can do it all. Running off the ball, passing, like.
What's his best position?
I don't know. Because I remember when we watched the game before and he was in a 10, I said, he's in a 10. But today I saw, okay, he can do it. And I think for me, the most exciting thing is that there's going to be an evolution because he's not, throughout his whole career, he's not going to be able to do the box to box running up and down thing. I'm really excited to see the layers that he adds to his game because right now he's looking complete, but weirdly, I know that he's not, and I know there's more to come. So yeah, I think 150, I think price tags in football are just stupid anyway. So 150, I think is so dumb. But if that's the money you got to pay for Jude Bellingham, you pay that money.
He's 19. In 4 years' time, the next World Cup, he'll still be 23.
That's why he's worth 150 mil, because he's only 19 years old. He can last in a decade. He'll only be 29. That's his peak. In 10 years' time, that's his peak.
But even then, if you get 10 years out of him, say you buy him now and he maintains this level, Jude Bellingham, and in 10 years' time he fades and he's 150 million. That's 15 million. Would you pay 15 million pound every summer to sign a player of Jude Bellingham's level?
Oh yeah.
You would, right?
Easily.
When you think that Gibbs White went to Nottingham Forest for 44 million.
He's all right though.
Yeah, he's all right.
But he's not Jude Bellingham.
He's decent.
But you'd sign. Listen, he's good, but I'd rather sign Jordan Henderson than Gibbs White, and he's old. But I think Bellingham is pretty much worth the money, plus the commerciality is going to be there. This guy is a good-looking young man. He understands the youth of today. He's got every element you would want a star player to have. And I think what's really exciting for not just him, but for also England is the fact that we've got 2 or 3 players that are having very good tournaments at the same time. Maybe even more than that when you actually deep it and break it down. And I just don't remember, even, I'm talking World Cups only, the last World Cup, Kane was scoring goals, as an example. But Sterling wasn't. You had, like, in the game we beat Panama, it felt like loads of players scored. But if Kane weren't scoring, who else was. At this tournament, you've got Saka on fire. Rashford's been playing very well. Foden in the last 2 games has lit things up. Bellingham, 3 out of the 4 games, he's bossed that midfield as an example. Yep. Harry Kane, I think, has been cooking. He's now started scoring goals. Defensively, we've got some issues at right back. No right back yet for me has been out of this world. But Shaw's been solid at left back. The defensive partnership, great. Pickford today, first time he's really been called into action and he stands up. But I do think that Bellingham is like that central hub. England have never won in my lifetime. England have never won midfield battles at international tournaments. And we had midfields with Scholes and Lampard and Gerrard in them. And maybe it was the combination of using all those 3 that messed it up because they all wanted to do the same things. One was always moved out on the left. The balance of this team, just works. And Bellingham is being allowed to flourish. He's being allowed to show the world why he's so good. And I'm just so impressed with the way. And I weren't that long ago in the season. It was this season where I saw people on streams talking about how is he really that good? He doesn't really move the needle too much. I saw a lot of like TikToks where they were taking like clips from people's podcasts, but what does he actually do? And the irony is these are the same people that would call someone like me a stat merchant for talking about Bruno Fernandes's stats or Mbappe's stats as an example. If you watch Jude Bellingham and you don't understand how he dictates the play, he controls the tempo. It's one of the hardest things to do in football because it's hard to quantify with stats. Only your eye can see it. Only football elites. And that's why the Football Terrace community understands how good Jude Bellingham is because you lot have been talking about him on here for 3 to 4 years. I know you guys know ball. The rest outside, I'm a little bit worried about. But this kid is something special. And the only thing I want to do, though, is I don't want there to be too much expectation on him. Because the one thing we've done in this country, and I can't speak for other nations because I don't live there, I don't see their press. But whenever we get a really talented youngster, we've killed them in this country. We did it to the class of 92 coming through, Beckham and all that. We definitely did it to Wayne Rooney. It was like, if you don't perform, it's all on you. We got a World Cup with Rooney. He wouldn't do well. The whole team would flop, but it'd be Rooney that was attacked and that bastard. I want us to protect Bellingham. I want us to protect Saka. I want us to protect Foden. It's the elder statesmen that we should be looking to. It is the Maguires and the Kanes and the Hendersons. That's where the pressure should be because they've done there and worn the T-shirt. Most of them won trophies as well. No Maguire and Kane haven't, but they've been in tournament football. There's not very many players in the world more experienced than those guys of getting to semi-finals and finals that are still playing football, at the highest level. And Bellingham's just great. I absolutely love watching.
Can I add on to this Bellingham thing? Do you know what also I really like about him? He does not shy away when it comes to the big games. When you see like a De Classica, he's always pumped up for it. He always wants to have that midfield battle. Always challenges Kimmich, Goretzka as being the guy that wants to boss that midfield. And even today in the World Cup, he's been bossing the midfield for England. The only bad game he had was against USA. But granted, every player does have a bad game. But when it comes to these big games, you saw it against this season, against Manchester City. The guy came up trumps and scored a goal, even though they did lose in the end. But he does like to show up in these big games, and that's a sign of a great player, in my opinion.
And not for nothing, 2 things. One person we haven't talked about at all, Declan Rice, just running the midfield, doing the dirty stuff, being aggressive. That's the part that allows Bellingham to go forward and move with the ball and find the people that are open and that type of stuff. And then 2, the other thing, it's amazing that the key players that we're pointing out are all under 24. So as good as the England team is now, what of the England team in like 3-4 years when some of these players really start to hit their stride?
And don't forget players that we still have that are not in this team right now. It's the young players that we have that are going to come through.
Is this better than the golden generation? I would say it is.
See, so again, this is yes and no. This is where we need to be very careful. The golden generation's problem is that the managers that managed them picked the best players. They didn't pick the best team. The only England manager to ever win a trophy was Sir Alf Ramsey. And his mantra was you pick your best team, not your best players. If you actually look at some of the best club managers around, Fergie would often put players in I didn't expect that, and you'd win games. That great Liverpool team that Klopp created, everyone would be able to pick now the best 11. We all knew what the best 11 was, right? That best 11 over a 70-game period started 3 games together. But in your minds, it was seen as the best 11, but they started 3 games in 70 as a collective together. I read that stat. It might have been slightly less games or more games, but in and around those figures. Because actually, what the manager, this game, what Klopp would do is say, right, we need Milner in this position today. Actually, today we're going to bring in a different centre back who's better at aerial duels. They're going to cross the ball more. It's horses for courses. This, what's our best 11 notion? It's the biggest fallacy in football. There's no such thing as your best 11. It's who is best to beat the team that's in front of you. Because you might play 10 teams on the bounce who play different styles, different formations, have different personnel. You can't pick the same starting 11. There has to be that rotation. This England team is so balanced compared to before. England messed up when we had Gerrard, Lampard and co. It should have been Michael Carrick holding the midfield with those guys around him. The midfield of England should have been built around Carrick. It shouldn't have been built around Gerrard and Lampard.
Or Hargreaves.
Because, or Hargreaves when he had his knees. We actually looked okay when he was there, but we were always putting square pegs into round holes. And Southgate, as much as I've come to a conclusion on Southgate now. I'm not judging him based on what he does in qualifying in Nations Leagues. I'm literally judging him on what he does.
Come on.
So you
in tournament football.
And so you're saying you don't want him sacked?
I have to admit, I was completely and utterly wrong to say that he should have been sacked. Now, some will say that quarterfinals isn't success. But if you look at the run now for England to win the World Cup, we have to beat France, Portugal or Spain, most likely, maybe Morocco, and probably Brazil or Argentina in the final. So every team we now play is of top level. Everyone left that England can play can beat each other. So we may win it, we may not. But we've reached their expectation of the quarterfinals. Now they see what we go and do. But I was definitely wrong. I thought we would be awful at this tournament. Barring the USA game, we have been practically flawless. And go back to your point, Igal, to bring it back round. There is that element of it's the balance that's been brought to this team by the manager and then using the players in the way that he does. And that's why we see the starting lineups. We go, I wouldn't have done that. And we tweet it. I tweet it. We're fans. We're allowed to. Listen, if fans ain't reactionary, what you doing? But for me, it's important.